here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
One day after the 11th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, we begin the show by talking about newly disclosed documents that provide further evidence the Bush administration ignored repeated warnings about Osama bin Laden's plans to attack the United States. Writing in the New York Times, journalist and author Kurt Eichenwald reports the Bush administration dismissed a number of warnings of an al-Qaeda attack in the United States beginning in the spring of 2001, instead focusing on Iraq and Saddam Hussein. Eichenwald writes, quote, "The neoconservative leaders who had recently assumed power at the Pentagon were warning the White House that the CIA had been fooled. According to the theory, bin Laden was merely pretending to be planning an attack to distract the administration from Saddam Hussein, whom the neoconservatives saw as a greater threat," end quote.
Well, to talk about the significance of these findings, we're joined by the author himself, Kurt Eichenwald, an award-winning journalist, contributing editor at Vanity Fair. His op-ed in the New York Times yesterday is called "The Deafness Before the Storm." His latest book, 500 Days, Secrets and Lies in the Terror Wars.
One of the most interesting accounts in your book is of President Bush trying to persuade, then President Bush trying to persuade French President Jacques Chirac to support U.S. military action in Iraq. You write that Bush said to Chirac, quote, "Jacques, you and I share a common faith. You're Roman Catholic, I'm Methodist, but we are both Christians committed to the teachings of the Bible. We share one common Lord." Bush goes on to say, quote, "Gog and Magog are at work in the Middle East. Biblical prophecies are being fulfilled. This confrontation is willed by God, who wants to use this conflict to erase his people's enemies before a new age begins," end quote. Can you elaborate on that?
That was a
exchange?
very interesting day when I heard that. This was a phone call. At that point, Chirac had been expressing a great deal of doubt about the intelligence that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. His doubts, obviously, were well placed. And Bush was trying to get a unified unified effort behind getting a resolution from the UN and then for military action. And Chirac was not being particularly cooperative for the very reason he didn't trust the intelligence. And so there's this phone call, and Bush is giving many reasons why France should become part of it, why Chirac should be joining in. And he's not having a lot of success. And suddenly you shift into this religious conversation. And Chirac's response to this was, he gets off the phone, and other people have been in on the call, and he looks at his staff and says, "Does anyone know what he was talking about?" And his administration, someone there reaches out to an expert on the Bible in Switzerland. And this person, because it's like, what is Gog and Magog? And this person writes up a report for, I just say this and it's surreal. He writes a report for the French president explaining these biblical terms that were cited by the President of the United States in this national security conversation. And Gog and Magog are from two books of the Bible, one the book of Ezekiel and one the book of Revelation, and it is central elements in the apocalyptic the Armageddon concept. And so Chirac's response when he reads this is, I'm dealing with a fanatic, and I'm not going to make national security decisions for France based on the president's interpretation of the Bible.